Hello everyone, and welcome to Linux Forensics here at Pen Tester Academy. In this video, we're looking at starting an investigation, some of the first steps, and we are still going to be on this first little box here, the one that says, was there an incident? Now, getting started in particular, one of our goals is to minimize disturbance to the system. So we don't want to install anything on the subject system, and we don't want to create any new files on the system. We are also trying to minimize the memory footprint. So we're trying to disturb it just as little as possible. Now, there are a couple of ways to accomplish this. One way is to use Netcat, and that's usually the best method if you can do it. Another way is to store the data that you collect to your thumb drive. It's not as desirable, but in a pinch, it'll probably work. Now, why Netcat? Well, Netcat is pretty simple. If the system is connected to a network, you can connect your forensics workstation to that same network. Also, if it's not connected or if it has a second interface, you might be able to connect it to your forensics workstation via a crossover cable or something similar. So that's what I want to talk about in this video. How can I use Netcat in order to transport data? So let's get started. So I'm going to start here on my subject system. And again, this is in a virtual machine. So I go to Devices, USB Devices, and click on my thumb drive in order to get it mounted inside the virtual machine, which it's done successfully here. And now I'll pull up a terminal window. All right, so now if I want to mount my known good binaries, I can start by going to the appropriate directory. Like so. And I'm going to go ahead and become root. Now that I'm root, I will exec bin bash and I have a known good shell. I go ahead and I set my path. I'm first going to copy the path. Control-Shift-C, and I will say export path equals Control-Shift-V /bin semicolon Control-Shift-V /sbin. Then I will fix my LD library path the same way. Export LD library path equals Control-Shift-V /lib64 colon Control-Shift-V /lib. Quick check with ifconfig, and sure enough, that all seems to work. Now, let me go ahead and send some things over to my forensics workstation? Well, first I want to start a listener. So I might naively say netcat-l 9999 and output that to a file. And what we'll learn in future videos, one of the first things you want to do is get the date. This allows you to look at certain things like time zones and time skews. And pipe that to my netcat 192.168.56.1 port 9999. And sure enough, it sends that information across, but there's a problem. The problem is my listener exited, and I didn't want that. So there's an easy fix for that. I can use netcat-k for keep alive-l 9999, and once again put that out to out.txt. Now, if I repeat my date command, I can also run some other commands such as uname and pipe it across. And if I go back to my forensics workstation, you'll notice that in this case, it hasn't killed my listener till I press Control-C. If I cat my text file, it seems to be working. And you're probably thinking this would be a great chance to use a script, and that will be the subject of a future video. One last thing I wanted to show you quickly. If I want to send a file, let's say I suspect that bin bash has been compromised, I can do something like this. I can set up my listener, netcat-l, and I'll listen on a different port because I probably want to keep the other one open. And I will pipe this to bash suspect. And then on the other machine, I just type something like this. Netcat 192.168.56.1 4444 greater than /bin/bash. It sends the file. If I go back over to this machine, I will see that I have, in fact, a new file. I can chmod +x the file. You should never do this, but I'm just going to show you that this actually works. And just for grins, I will run a different shell, and now I will run bash suspect, and sure enough, I'm back to a bash shell. So it worked.
That's all for this video. As always, if you're enjoying these videos here at Pen Tester Academy, please tell a friend. We'll see you next time.